It's good. You should go see it. That's all you really need to hear, and that's all you really need to know. The Mario movie was good. It was enjoyable. I had a wonderful time, and you'll have a good time with it too. Is it a hallmark of cinema masterpieces? Absolutely not. I think as a movie in a vacuum, it's not fantastic. However, as a Mario movie, let alone a video game movie, it's really good. And I really quite enjoyed it. So if you're even remotely on the fence with it, you'll like it. You'll have a good time. Even just being a remote Nintendo or Mario fan, it's absolutely enjoyable. And a lot of the concerns and problems people had before the movie came out, or even leading up to it, a lot of them just ended up not being problems at all. If you're wondering if you should go see the movie, my answer would be yes. But I'm gonna get into some specifics without being too spoilery. I'm trying to avoid spoilers, but I do want to talk about the movie itself. And I wanted to start with some of the more major things about the movie that I actually liked a lot about it. And I think the big thing is that it nails being a Mario movie, from everything about it, from the overall look, the design, the characters, the aesthetic, the music, the way they took the Mario world and put it onto screen was very well done. Even just the concept of the fact that they have power-ups in the world, in these item boxes everywhere, that would just work really well. They just straight up call it, these are power-ups. If you get hit, you'll lose it. No further explanation or extra dialogue on top of that to try to justify it. It's just, oh, this is how it is. There's a point where Mario's like, that block is just floating? And that's it. No acknowledgement of it. It's just, yes, that is a floating block because that's what happens in the Mario universe. This is just how it is. We don't need to further justify it. They didn't put little rocket packs on it or say there's magic or levitations or whatever. It's just, this is just how our world is. And I like that a lot about it. The music also, I think, was probably one of the strongest parts of the entire movie because naturally, you're gonna hear a lot of motifs from different Mario games, but it wasn't a crutch. You'll hear them pop in from time to time and done super well. That's like, oh yeah, that's a Mario theme, all right. But that's just like a small stanza in the entire poem of the song. You'll hear the airship theme from Mario 3 very briefly. You'll hear the Luigi's Mansion theme very, very briefly. Mario World, Mario Galaxy, Mario 1, just all the Marios. All the Marios, they were represented at some point in the movie. And again, it wasn't leaning heavily onto that, just little teases just to pull a twang on your heart for all that nostalgia without overindulging in it. One of the other things I actually liked that maybe I was actually more thankful for was that a lot of the references to Mario or Nintendo in general were very front-loaded. A lot of them were at the start or the beginning area of the movie, just we're just gonna get these all out of the way. Haha, Mario stuff, haha, Nintendo stuff, huh? Get it? Huh? That way the rest of the movie could be on its own without having to rely too much on references and nostalgia. And there are a ton of references, a lot of little background Easter eggs, a lot of little nods and cute things, mostly store signs. A few of the references are super obvious, so I don't need to feel the need to point those out. But aside from those, the other ones that I noticed were obviously, it's gonna be Punch-Out, Duck Hunt, Kid Icarus, Star Fox, F-Zero, Ice Climbers, Kung Fu, Donkey Konga. And along with those references and the music, another thing the movie does really well is that it uses a lot of the Mario sound effects really, really well to again, establish the fact that this is the Mario universe and it is a video game movie. But it's not hearing the same Mario jump sound effect over and over again or coin sound effects or whatever. It's more subtle than that. An example would be Magic Koopa is in the film. Anytime Magic Koopa teleports anywhere, you hear that Super Mario World kind of sound effect. Anytime he throws his wand or teleports away with all that. It's, again, not overly used, but enough to be oh yeah, that's the sound effect it makes whenever Magic Koopa teleports. And that's a really good way just to establish that they're taking the game to the film. And I like that a lot. Or even just anytime Mario gets a mushroom, it does the mushroom sound effect. Love that. That's great. Not overindulging, but just what other sound could they possibly make there? Overall story and plot-wise, I found it to be it was a pretty safe movie. It's not gonna do anything too surprising or out of the left field, which that's fine. It's a Mario movie. You really don't need to do anything that unexpected for it. So it's a lot of very typical, a lot of typical finales and build-ups, and the way it like all comes to an end is like, yeah, that's pretty much what I expected, which is fine. Again, it's a very safe movie in that regard. Even though it's a safe movie, what I really liked about it is that it wasn't too childlike. And I think I had a fear going into the Mario movie was that they were going to be marketing and gearing it directly towards children and making it not necessarily a family movie, but like a kids movie. I think part of that fear just comes from the fact that it was being made by Illumination, since, you know, all the Minions movies, those are kids movies. Mario, not a kids movie, a family movie, absolutely, but not kid movie. What's the difference? That's hard to put into words. I guess the Mario movie didn't have any fart jokes. Like I think fart jokes and butts, etc. I feel like that's generally what you'll find in a kids movie. Mario movie doesn't do anything like that. Very thankful for that. And I think another really good thing they did was actually all of the characters and the way they actually showed them. Like, Mario acted like Mario a lot. He doesn't give up. They show off his surprising athleticism early on in the film to help justify him doing a lot of things later in the film, so it actually made a lot of sense. They establish how protective he is of Luigi. He's like, you know, we are inseparable, and like, I'll always be there for you, and like, they establish that very early on, and it works throughout the entirety of the film. It's actually the main driving force of the film, is the fact that Mario and Luigi are always there for each other. And I like that way more than like, you find the princess is captured, go save her, or whatever. So I like that, the core message of the movie, I like that quite a bit more than anything else they could have gone with. And honestly, I think a lot of that comes from the fact that the voice acting for everyone was good. The easy standout was Jack Black as Bowser. He absolutely had a lot of time had a lot of fun with the role, and they make it very, very clear on multiple occasions why they chose Jack Black to be Bowser, and even in that, it works super well. And I think the biggest fear a lot of people had going into it, myself included, was, you know, Chris Pratt being Mario, because it's just Chris Pratt. And I think it's more of a oversaturation of Chris Pratt being in anything, that he's just everywhere. I mean, it's not even necessarily him doing something wrong. It's kind of like, you remember, what was it, like 2008, 2009 or so, where everyone was sick of Nolan North out of everywhere because he happened to show up in every single video game? It's not because he was doing a bad job or anything wrong, he was just everywhere. Same thing now, but with Chris Pratt. That said, Chris Pratt as Mario was fine. He wasn't exactly given a lot of opportunities to do a lot of like voice acting expertise or really showcase his abilities or anything like that, but it was a generally inoffensive performance throughout the entire movie. At no point you're going to be watching the Mario movie and just feel mad at Mario's voice. That doesn't happen at any point in time. He does a fine job. Not great, not amazing, but it's just, yep, that is good enough. And I'm glad, like, he does try to put on at least a little bit of a voice, so it's not just, I'm Chris Pratt, y'all, haha. Like, there's a little something there. Not a whole lot, but just a little something that does enough. Charlie Day as a Luigi, also a fantastic job, because he really encapsulates Luigi's constant panic and fear at everything, so I think he was also another really strong choice. Peach's voice, same thing. I think that's another one that just kind of fine, wasn't really standout or amazing or even necessarily like super befitting of the character of Peach or anything like that, but again, inoffensive, nothing to be mad at, it was just fine. One that I found to be surprisingly weaker, that I was actually kind of expecting more out of, was Keegan-Michael Key as Toad. Like, I thought he was really going to be allowed to bring himself and his energy to Toad. In the entire movie, like, Toad's voice is altered to be more high-pitched and Toad-like rather than just sounding like Keegan-Michael Key. But that dude's like a very funny guy, brings a lot of energy to every role he does, and I feel like that wasn't allowed at all for himself as Toad. So if anything, Toad was a weaker moment. I think, yeah, I would say Toad was the weakest voice, surprisingly, out of everything there. And that's because I feel like he wasn't given enough space to do anything interesting with himself or the character, or allowed to perform in a very comedic way. And since I'm on that subject, we'll actually talk about some of the things I liked less about the movie, and one of them was Toad in general. Felt very wasted. Like there really wasn't a whole lot of purpose for Toad to be there. He kind of shows up early on to help Mario out and then just exists throughout the rest of the film without really doing anything or having a purpose to be there. He kind of just ends up being a half plot device, half prop for gags and jokes, while he himself not really providing a whole lot of gags, plots, or jokes. He was just kind of there. That kind of felt like a waste. One of the other issues I had going into the movie, at least a fear I had, was, again, that illumination style. You'll notice that a lot of these movies by them are all kind of animated in a very same way that I've gotten bored of it very quickly, is that there's usually a lot of like really fast animations followed by quick stops. And that happens a lot, whether it's within action scenes or someone yelling at someone, just fast animations, quick stops. And maybe that's leaning more towards like gearing it towards family and or kids, is that the faster the animation, the funnier it is, or somehow more captivating. Like that's somehow like the jingling keys of the movie to keep their attention. As long as there's a lot of chaos and energy on screen through a lot of quick movement, that's somehow more interesting. There is some of that in the film, and I didn't like it. Like a lot of the movement at times was so fast I couldn't actually keep up, and I didn't like that as much. The Mario versus Donkey Kong fight comes to mind in particular. Or even towards like one of the final action set pieces of the film. Kind of the same thing. And on the flip side of that, there's a couple of slow motion moments in the movie that didn't make any sense to me, and they were always at the same time. Like it would just swap to slow motion out of nowhere, and it's always with Mario going, "Mamma Mia." So it's Mario like dodging something in slow motion being like, "Mamma Mia." I don't know why. Again, I guess that's to make it funnier for kids or something. It made no sense to me. No idea why the slow motion was there. And a lot of that slow motion and the fast movement and all that did come to one of my other issues with the movie, is that it's just a lot of Mario getting hurt. And that's, again, probably more for like making enjoyable for kids, very cartoony. Someone getting hurt and slapped around is funny. And it's a lot of, which is fine, but it ends up being like a lot of montagey moments of Mario getting hurt, like, oh, here he is going through some pipes, just quick cuts, montage, he's getting slapped up, it's funny. Here's Mario on the training course, here he is failing a lot and he's getting hurt, that's funny. Here's Mario versus Donkey Kong, we're not gonna show the whole fight, but here's a lot of quick cuts of him getting beat up and hurt, that's funny. There's a lot of montages of just Mario getting beat up, and that's a lot of the issues I had for the movie as a whole, is that they had a lot of jokes or ideas that they really couldn't just let them stand on their own. They reused them over and over again. They tried to abide to the rule of threes, but it just didn't work. So like the montages, the slow motions, some others I can't think of at the moment, but there's a lot of gags reused too often. But I would say the biggest issue with the movie that I had, the only thing that I could think of where I thought actively to myself, I do not like this, was this really weird choice in that there's a lot of pop music in the movie, and they're all 80s songs, which was so weird to me. Don't want to spoil them, but throughout the movie there is multiple instances of just like radio hits of music from the 80s, and the only thing I could think of was like, hey, here's something for mom and dad, or single guys and they're 28 or 29 years old. Hey, remember 80s kids, 90s kids? Here's something for you. Remember this song? Didn't enjoy any of that. Like it was just music that didn't really fit, and for sequences that didn't need it at all, I would have just preferred to keep hearing orchestrated Mario music. It would have worked way better, and I don't know why those were there. That was the only thing I actually did not like, were the 80s music showing up out of nowhere too briefly, and also used in areas that it just didn't fit. Multiple instances of it, but I think the worst offender was as Mario is on his way to meet Donkey Kong. One instance there where I'm just like, why is this? Why is this? Why is this? I did think the overall like final act was actually kind of on the weaker side. Like, they tried to have this moment, like this moment with Mario and Donkey Kong, which ended up not really going anywhere or given time to breathe or amount to anything. It lasted maybe like all of 17 seconds, and then they're already moving on to the next thing. So, and like that, between the build up and like the final action set pieces and all that, I didn't love it. And again, if nothing else, predictable. Which all this probably sounds like I'm complaining more about the movie than I am praising it, and that's not the case, because I did enjoy the movie. I honestly had a good time. I, again, don't think it's an incredible movie. If on its own, like in a vacuum, if I had to review a movie, the Mario movie as being a movie, it really is only like a 6 out of 10 at best. But like for a Mario movie or a video game movie, it's a super enjoyable time. If anything, I found it comfortable. It's gonna be a very comfortable movie to watch. This is one that I would see myself owning, that I could just throw up on the screen or my second monitor whenever I wanted, just to have some background noise that at any point in time I know I can look up at the screen and just be like, ha, yeah, Mario. And that's all I really need. And I think that's fine. I overall would say the Mario movie I liked more than Sonic the Hedgehog. I liked it more than the Sonic 2 movie, but I did not like this movie as much as the Dungeons and Dragons movie. I like the D&D movie more, but Mario over both Sonic movies. But yeah, overall, the Mario movie is a good, enjoyable time. I do recommend that you go see it. I kind of want to go see it a second time, which is not something I've really felt about a movie in, I don't know, decades. Not because I think it's great, but again, it was just a very comfortable feeling. Maybe it's a lot of it's the nostalgia, a lot of it is the source material, but I kind of want to go see it again. Also, there is an after credits tease with like a very obvious setup for a second movie for what I hope to be in the inevitable sequel. I would love to see a sequel to the Mario movie. Saw the Mario movie, I enjoyed it, recommend it to you. Not gonna be amazing, but there's not gonna be really anything in there that's gonna piss you off like a lot of people feared. So, not really a movie guy, but I hope you enjoyed my brief review of the Mario movie. Thanks for watching, everyone.